Om Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarvabhignopashantaye Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhirbhavatu me sada Yenaksharasamaamnayam Adhigamya Maheshwarat Kritsnam Vyakaranam Proktam Tasmai Parninaye Namaha Vakyakaram Vararuchim Bhashyakaram Patanjalim Parninim Sutrakarancha Pranatosmi Munitrayam Vagarthaviva Samprikto Vagarthaf Pratipattaye Jagatah Pitaro Vande Parvati Parameshwaro Om Shanti 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 Om. So we seek blessings from Lord Ganesha, Goddess Saraswati, and the Munis that have created the grammar system with which we're studying. And we salute or we do namaskara to the Jagatah Pitaro, to the parents of the world, as it were, to the creators, Parvati and Parameshwara, Lord Shiva and Parvati. So we start off with our prayer to remove our obstacles from our study, and so that we can be blessed with the knowledge as well, right? Especially Navaratri has started already, so we ask for the grace from Goddess, from the Devi, right? So that we could gain this knowledge. So Saraswati is supposed to be said to preside over the tongue, is said to preside over speech. And so we ask for Saraswati's grace so that we can gain the knowledge of the language, so that we can gain the knowledge of Vedanta, right? Okay, so just sharing my screen with you. So our warm-up was to kind of to remind us of some of the words that we were talking about in that last class. So a lot of you have answered and answered correctly. So the first word was vakyam. So if we remember what we were talking about in our last class, we were talking about the basic structure of Sanskritam language. So Sanskrit, right? There's two parts to the word, sam and krit. Sam and then krit. So sam means very well. And the krit means well, it means done. So sam, very well, krit means done. So very well done. So it's a very well made language. It's like if you cook something and you said it's like very well done, you're just honoring how great it is. So same with this. The language is very well made, very well done. And the way we can see that is in the systematic structure of the language. And so that's what we're studying in this book, right? We're studying the systematic structure of the language and just the beauty of how it's laid out, right? So first we were talking about this basic structure. So first, hopefully I can write. So first, right, we have a vakyam. A vakyam in English, right, is sentence, a sentence. So vakyam is the most basic unit of the language. A sentence is the most basic unit of the language. And sentences, as we know, are made up of padam, word, and padani, words. So if I write it here, padani. right? So the vakyam is made up of padani, words, and we saw that there's really only two types of words in the whole language. So the whole language is built upon these two types of words. The two types of words being tingantam padam and subantam padam. So I'm just going to short it in it to tingantam and subantam. So we have a sentence. Our sentence is made up of words, padani, and there's two types of padani, tingantam padam and subantam padam. Right? So tingantam padam means a verb, and subantam padam means noun. So let's look at those words a little bit closer. So you can open up your workbook. In your workbook, you can find this on one of the first pages. You'll see this layout. It says in the Sanskrit language, there's only two types of words. So this will be one of the first few pages of the workbook. So we just saw there's two types of words, right? There's a verb and there's a noun. So a verb is called tingantam padam. Right? If I write it in transliteration, so the word padam, as we've seen, means word, right? So this is a word. Anta means ending with something called ting. So word, padam, anta, ending with ting. Now we're going to talk about what ting means. It's not like a thing, like what we use in English, like this thing, that thing, not that. It's not like that. It's a specific technical term that we're going to learn about in a little bit. But we just need the word that a verb is called a tingantam padam, or in short, you can just say tingantam, right? Tingantam. And a noun, as we know, right, is subantam. Sorry, handwriting is not great, but you can see it in your book as well. Subantam padam. So padam, word, anta, ending with soup. Now, so there's a soup type suffix, S-U-P, soup. There's a soup type suffix that makes up a noun. So it's a padam, word, anta, ending with soup. So that P becomes a B because of a sandhi rule that we can learn later on. We don't need to worry about that, but the P becomes a B. So word ending with soup. Not like tomato soup or sweet and sour soup, right? This is, or wedding soup. This is a technical term. Again, soup we will learn about later on. So word ending with soup type suffix and word ending with ting type suffix. Okay, so there's only two types of words. That's really what we need to know. So if I have an example and if I give a sentence, let's say, Ramaha vanam gacchati. This is like the classic example that you'll see at the beginning of almost every Sanskrit book. Ramaha vanam gacchati. Okay, so this is a sentence. This is a vakyam. This is a vakyam, and the vakyam is made up of padani, right? There's multiple words. Now, there's only two types that they can fit into, either tingantam padam or subantam padam. Here, gacchati is our tingantam padam, or I can just say tingantam. And each of these two words is a Subantam Padam. Ramaha and Vanam. So Gachati means goes. Who goes? Rama goes, and he goes where? To the forest. Vanam. But these Rama and Vana are both nouns, right? A noun is something that stands for a person, place, or an object. Person, place, object. So Rama is a person, Vana is a place, right? So those are both nouns. And our action word is gachati. Our verb, our action word is gachati, right? So thumbs up if you're okay with this and we can keep moving. Okay. Let me know, type in the chat or raise your hand if you want me to slow down. Okay, so this was our sentence and we've seen that. Now we're going a little bit further. So now that we've seen there's two types of words, we're gonna break down those two types of words even further. Let me move you all up there, okay. So we're gonna break these down. So each word in Sanskrit is comprised of two basic constituents. So I see that someone raised their hand. I'll come back to them in 1 minute. I'll just finish this and I'll come back. Every word in Sanskrit is comprised of two basic parts, two basic constituents. So two parts, okay? One is called prakritihi. Prakritihi. So prakritihi. Actually, they should have a dot. That's a little bit misspelled. But prakritihi. And prakritihi, or in English, means an original entity. Okay, so every word is comprised of some original entity, so original part, right? So it's your base original part. Like it's like your stock parts of your car, right? In your car, when you get your car, you have your stock pieces, right? It's the original pieces. So that's the prakriti, that original entity. And then apratyayaha. That's a yakara, ya pratyayaha. Let's write it in English, in transliteration rather, not English. Pratyayaha. Pratyayaha means a suffix. So you can fit these in the lines in your book. It just on the computer, it's hard to write in those lines. So you can write them in the lines, but a pratyaya is a suffix. Okay, so what we've learned so far is that each word, whether it's a tingantam padam or it's a subantam padam, either one, it's going to be made up of an original entity, prakritihi, and a suffix, pratyaha. So for example, even in English, we can see the original entity go, and I can write goes, or I can write gone. Right here, I have this original entity, and it can take different endings to mean different things. Okay, so let me erase that. Okay, so now you can fill this in here, right? A padam, a word, is made up of prakritihi and pratyaya. Okay, so for example, if I have the word Rama, Ramaha rather, if I have the word Ramaha, That's a padam, that's a word, right? And Ramaha is made up of Rama plus a suffix called su. Now we'll learn about su later on, but right, that's a suffix. So I have a prakriti, original entity, and I have a suffix. Or for example, gacchati, I can do gacchati is equal to gum plus ti. Gum plus ti equals gacchati. It goes through some magical transformations to go from gum to gaccha, but we know that there is original entity, gum, prakritihi, that's our prakritihi, and our pratyaya is ti. So whether it's a noun like Rama, or it's a verb like gacchati, it's going to have a prakriti and pratyaya. Okay, either one. Okay, so now someone had a question. Let me get to them. Mangalaji, did you have a question?
No, I accidentally pressed that.
Accidentally pressed it, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, so we'll keep going. So if anyone has a question, please type it in the chat or let me know. All right, so now we've seen the structure so far. So, right, sentence, vakyam, vakyam is made of padani, padani is made up of tingantam padam and subantam padam. Each of those are made up of prakritihi and pratyaya. Okay, so you should be able to go through this flow without me. Okay, this flow should be coming with you. Now we're going to differentiate even further. We're going to break up the prakriti and pratyaya specifically for each type of word. Okay, so the prakriti and pratyaya is going to like evolve in some way. Prakriti and pratyaya is like an egg, and this egg is going to then crack into something differentiated, right? It's going to crack into a chicken or a lizard, depending on what we want to make. Okay. So now we want to make a verb, right? Because there's only two types of words, and one of the types is a verb. So we're going to try to make a verb. So our verb, can you type in the chat and tell me what a verb is called? Can you type in the chat and someone tell me what a verb is called? Yeah, so we're getting some answers. Yeah, it's called a tingantam padam, correct. So, tingantam padam. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize it was right here. Okay, so tingantam padam, right? That's our verb. And our verb is, okay, so now our prakriti specifically for a verb is going to be called a dhatu. Dhatuhu. Okay, so dhatuhu. So notice, right? I had originally it's prakriti plus pratyaya. Now our prakriti has differentiated into a dhatu. So our original entity is now what we're calling a dhatu when we're talking about a verb. Okay, and a dhatu English translation is root. A root. Okay, so I have a verbal root. Is a dhatuhu. So that original entity, prakriti, is specifically for a verb is called a verbal root or a dhatuhu. And the verbal suffix is called ting pratyayah. Oh, that H is just outside the picture, but there's a visarga at the end of the word. Okay, so I've dhatuhu plus ting pratyayah. So notice my pratyaya has been differentiated specifically into ting pratyaya. Okay, so come with the flow with me, okay? So vakyam is made up of padani. So you should be able to say it before me. Padani is made up of tingantam padam and subantam padam. Now, both of those are made up of prakritihi plus pratyaha. Now, when we're talking about a verb specifically, prakriti is dhatuhu plus ting pratyaha. Okay, so you see it all coming together. We're making this beautiful tree. So now the example for this is gachati, right? So I have my verb gachati. Gachati means to, it goes. He, she, it goes. Gachati is made up of the dhatu, gum. Gum means to go. And I add a ting pratyayaha of ti. So my verbal suffix is ti when I'm talking about a singular third person entity. Okay, we'll talk about the and we'll talk about the gum later on. But okay. Now, just skipping ahead a little bit, if you look at in the book, they talk about verbal suffixes, ting pratyaya. So I've tingantam padam, a padam word, anta ending with ting. So now we can see why it's called tingantam padam, right? Because it's ending with ting pratyaya. It's ending with ting, right? So padam word, anta ending with ting, because ting is our verbal suffix. Now we know why it's called a tingantam padam, because it's going to end always with this type of suffix. Okay, now there's 18 types of suffixes that you can get for a verb. We don't need to know all of this yet, right? There's 3 types of persons, and there's singular, dual, plural, and there's 2 types. We'll get to this chart eventually. All I want to show you is why it's called ting. If you look at the first one here, all the way right here, it starts with ti. And it ends with the letter ting. Okay, so now if I add the 2, I get ting. So when I say ting pratyaya, really I'm doing a shorthand to stand for all 18 of these suffixes. I'm taking the first letter and the last letter to stand for the whole series that's included in the middle, to stand for all the ones in the middle. So when I say ting pratyaya, I'm saying a suffix within these 18. Suffix within these 18 types. Okay? Thumbs up if we're okay. Okay, looks like there's thumbs up. let's go back a little bit. So if we look at now a noun, right? So we said every word is made up of prakriti plus pratyaya. Now let's look at specifically for a noun. So a noun is called subantam padam. So me being lazy, I'm just going to draw an arrow and put it in there. So subantam padam, you can write it in your book. Oh, of course, this is going to drive me crazy. Hold on one second. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so subantam padam. Now subantam padam, now the prakriti, this should say nominal base. So in your book, you can correct that. Nominal base is called prati padikam. Pratipadikam. Okay, so you can see the spelling in your book. If you can't read it, it's with pratipadikam. 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 So repeat after me. Pratipadikam. One more time. Pratipadikam. Pratipadikam. Okay, so that's a nominal base. That's the prakriti specifically for a noun. That's the original entity. Our original entity, okay? And then specifically for a suffix, for a noun, we're going to be calling it soup. Oh, not sush. Soup. Pratyayaha. And you can draw it in the box. I'm just drawing it outside the box because it won't fit for me, okay? So soup. Pratyayaha. Okay, so that's a nominal suffix. A soup pratyaya. So pratyaya suffix, specifically the soup kind. Okay, again, not tomato soup or wedding soup. This is Sanskrit soup. So don't get confused by why are we talking about thing and soup. This is all Sanskritam grammar, I swear. This is all Panini Muni made these words up. Okay, so for example, if we have the word vanam, or you see at the bottom, ramaha. So if I have ramaha, our pratipadikam is rama, and our supratyaya is sa. Is the sa. That's our supratyaya for this word. And this is our pratipadika, is a rama. Another example, vanam. Vanam is made up of pratipadika vana and the suffix So is our supratyaya. Okay, we're going through a lot of vocabulary, but it's all systematic. So I start with the vakyam. Vakyam is made of padani. Padani is two types, subantam padam, tingantam padam. Now, each are made up of prakriti and pratyaya. So specifically, tingantam padam is dhatuhu plus ting pratyaya, and subantam padam is specifically pratipadikam plus supratyaya. Okay, this may seem okay, and you might seem fine with this, but this is an amazing amount of vocabulary for one Sanskrit class. Okay, we're covering almost the whole language overview. So if you're following along, you can pat yourself on the back. Okay. Now we already covered this, right? There's two types of suffixes. So without looking at your notes, can you tell me what the verbal suffix is called? Because I've already forgotten. Can you tell me what the verbal suffix is called in the chat? What is a verbal suffix called? Okay, so getting a mixed range of answers. So yeah, so it is a okay. So notice the word I had. What is a verbal suffix? So verbal suffix. So if we go back, a verbal suffix is ting pratyayaha. Ting pratyayaha. Okay. So tingantam padam is the whole word. The whole word, verb, is made up of dhatu plus ting pratyaya. So those who said ting pratyaya are correct. Those who said dhatu or tingantam is not so completely correct, okay? It's not correct. So ting pratyaya was the answer to that, okay? Now, since you're already on the chat, can you tell me what nominal suffix is? What is the suffix for a noun? What is the suffix for a noun? What is sa and what ends? Okay. There was a question. Okay, so let's finish this. So the answer to this is sup pratyaya. Sup pratyaya. Okay, sup pratyaya. Okay, so suffix pratyaya, specifically the sup kind. Okay, so there was a question. The question is, when I'm writing Rama, oh, not Sama. When I'm writing Rama, and I say Ramaha is equal to Rama plus su. The question was, what does the su stand for? And the su is the nominal suffix, so sup pratyaya. And what it tells us is that Rama is the doer of action, and he's singular. There's only one Rama, and he's going to be the doer of the action of going. So who goes? Rama goes. And how we know that Rama goes is because of this suffix. Now, we will come to that. So if that didn't make sense, don't worry. We don't need to know that. Okay, but if you have been in this class, you know that su is our pratama purusha ekavachanam supratyaya. So meaning that it's first case singular, first case standing for the karta. Why is it called soup? It's called soup because there's 21 suffixes for a noun. Okay, so for a noun, there's 21 types of supratyas, 7 cases, and singular, dual, and plural. Okay, you don't need to know. I just want you to see why it's called soup. If you look at the first one, it's called soup, and it ends with the letter pa. So if I want to refer to all 21 of these without having to say each one, I just say soup. Su, the first one, and pa is the last one. So soup stands for all 21 suffixes. So that's why I call it a sup pratyaya. Okay? Not soup because it's super. And the last thing I want to note before we wrap up, we have 1 more minute, is that in every sentence, there is one verb. Verb is called tingantam padam, written or implied. So if I have a sentence, right, a vakyam, and my vakyam is made up of padani, my padan, at least one of the padani must be a tingantam. Okay, at least one of them should be a verb. So in every sentence, there must be one verb, and it might be written or it's implied. Okay, so meaning that you might not see it in the sentence, but it's implied in every single sentence that you'll see in Sanskrit language. Okay, it's 8:05. The homework is just again to review. This is in your book. You can see this in your textbook. Book 1, page number 10. On page number 10 of this white book that I'm holding, white book, page number 10, not the blue book, the white book, which is page number 10, you'll see these words. So you want to know each of these words and also how they connect to each other, okay? So this is adding it to your vocabulary. And I'm going to repeat these things 100 and maybe 150 times, so don't worry. But try to look through these and try to know them for next class, because this is going to be like our ABCs. If you don't know the ABCs, then I can't go above that, right? If you don't know the basics, then we can't move on from there. So, Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Okay, we will start up again at 8:12. Give you a 5-minute break. If anyone has any questions in the meantime, you can still type in the chat. I'm just going to turn off my camera.